So when Dr. Subramania invited me to come over here, since he happens to be my senior, all that you need to do is you just come and then interact with the students. And that's what I have done here, and I have given my attendance to him. I learned that 3 batches of students are going through a course on environmental law here, and all of you are here. And Professor Vidya has given me 3 topics: environmental law and global sustainability, a critical analysis of sustainable development in the light of human rights and environmental protection, technological advances and environmental degradation. She gave me the choice to pick any one of them. The greedy that I am, I have chosen to pick all the 3 and reflect on them and put it within the legal frame that you as students of law would study to be of use to you. So I would rather rephrase the 3 titles into musings in environmental law, anchored to the principles of sustainable development, precaution, and a legal order which would address issues of human rights and environment and development. How does it deal with that is what we need to examine now. What do you think? Does environmental law deal with all this? You are going through a course on environmental law. Feel free, I am in conversation with you. I don't have a PowerPoint because I neither have a power nor any point to make. I am in conversation. Do you think environmental law deals with human rights? Does environmental law deal with destructive development? Sustainable development? So the answer is yes. You already know it. What more I need to contribute to? Let us just see what is so special about this body of law to start with. Is it a specialized law, or is it just like any other law that one should know? My submission to you is, number 1, there is nothing like the environmental law. There are environmental laws. Or still better, legal enquiries and concerns are very much there concerning environment in every bit of law that you study as a student of law. Perhaps this is one area of law which transcends whatever barriers that you have. Human rights law, business law, labor law, corporate law, you name it. All these barriers are demolished when you get into an inquiry into environmental law, for the simple reason that there's a little bit of environmental law in which each one of them. Are those in the last row, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, let me shout till the mic is ready. I will carry on. No, I can walk around there, no problem. Thank you. Now you can hear me. All that I said so far is not that very important. And not that what I am going to speak henceforth would be important, but it may be of some use to you. The first thing is, this is perhaps the only law that you can think of which permeates into every other aspects of law. And being one of the youngest laws, nascent, it's effervescent, ever evolving, so dynamic that what I teach this year as environmental law, I cannot teach next year. The same thing. So there is no question of monotony. there is no question of a teacher getting bored of what he is teaching, for the simple reason that to catch up with the developments that are occurring internationally and domestically, it is such a huge task. And all that you can do in the number of hours that you have for teaching environmental law is only to give a little bit of an essence of that and highlight the major features. And as a student, this is one area of law that you can keep on improvising all the while in the classroom, in the course of your study, and when you get into practice. I find in the last 27 years of my teaching of environmental law alone, this is one area of law which is truly transdisciplinary, not interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary. It transcends disciplines. I did mention to start with that this is one area of law which has a little bit of business, a little bit of human rights, a little bit of labor law, a little bit of conservation law and things like that. Apart from law, it has every bit of every other discipline known to human existence. In fact, environmental law is knowing about life, is knowing about life forms, is knowing about the relationship of life forms with each other and with those non-human, non-living entities as well in relation to nature. It's part of nature. And so, environmental law is trying to learn about nature, trying to learn about how to live within those imperatives laid down by nature. That way, I would rather consider not just a student of law, not just a student of social sciences, not just a student of physical or natural sciences. Every human being should know about environmental law. Should know, because it's knowing about life itself. As long as one is alive, one needed to really get exercised over the environment that he lives in, he or she lives in. And a little bit of a knowledge, a little bit of an understanding, and those legal prescriptions concerning environment are essentially meant for improving the quality of life, adds value to life, and improving the quality of life. So what exactly is the objective of environmental law? The objective of environmental law, as you could see, quite unlike any other discipline that you know of, it is most selfless law. Most selfless law. The only objective it has is to take care of life, not just about survival, but a life that can live well, that is meant for improving the quality of life. If you just examine all those laws that are made both domestically and internationally, the basic underlying principle of all these laws concerning environment is essentially to see how well you are going to provide the safeguards against any deleterious, harmful effects on life, maintain a particular quality of life, and if possible, improve the quality of life. It's meant to sustain, it's meant to protect, it's meant to improve the quality of life. You cannot think of any other law which has this kind of an ideal. A transdisciplinary law, it has economics in it, it has sociology in it, it has biochemistry in it, it has ecological sciences in it, you name it. Every discipline on earth is an integral aspect of environmental law. You just read the Biodiversity Act. An ordinary lawyer will not be able to comprehend what this act conveys for the simple reason it is full of biosciences. it is full of biotechnological applications. And so the grammar and the language of environmental law is not like an ordinary law. It requires a lot more specialization. You should need to know about so many other disciplines to really comprehend the content, the contours and the depth of this law. And that's the reason why I keep calling anyone who is specializing in environmental law as a brave heart. Only brave hearts can take to environmental law. How many brave hearts are there in this class who would like to get into this? One? I need some more. Just one. You want to specialize in environmental law?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Doesn't matter. My sincere belief is that without you knowing, without you realizing it, even if you are going to become a corporate lawyer, even if you are going to be somebody who is going to specialize at the higher level of practice in the High Court or the Supreme Court, at some point of time or the other, you invariably need to refer to some aspects of environmental law. So a little bit of a learning, as they say in Hindi, "Kaam pe aa jayega." At some point of time in your career, it will help you. So that way you need not have to be exclusively focused on this area, but over time you will have opportunities to really hone your skills and apply whatever understanding that you have acquired in the classroom into application in practice. Okay, let me just come to the main theme of our inquiry here. Given this kind of a background of this body of law, how does it appeal to human rights? If you just examine the way in which the entire environmental jurisprudence in India evolved, it is anchored to, essentially based upon, and stands on the foundation of human rights only. Take out all the decisions of the higher judiciary, the High Court and the Supreme Court, right from 1970s to the present day, concerning environment. There is not even a single case law which does not reflect on human rights. The intimate, irretrievable connection between human rights and environmental law is so well entrenched and established by the higher judiciary that many a time people start believing as though that environmental law is a offshoot of human rights. I would rather put it as a kind of a strategy. The entire jurisprudence of the higher judiciary use this as a strategy to relate human rights and environment in such a fashion so that it will give life to many of those environmental concerns, address many an environmental crisis, and handle quite a few environmental problems. Because the courts very early realized talking about environmental protection would not mean anything unless and until it is anchored to some kind of a constitutional provision. And there is no better provision than what you have in the fundamental rights part of the Constitution, the right to life. Look at those early cases. Whether it is the Doon Valley litigation case or the Tarun Bharat Singh Alwar case or to the latest Lafarge case, right from 1975, in one sweep move up to 2019, you invariably get into human rights. It's a strategy. Because very early the court realized that anything that concerns the public at large, anything that affects the life of the people at large, cannot be handled and cannot be addressed and redressed unless and until the courts of law takes the anchor of the writ jurisdiction. And for that protection that you get under Article 32 and Article 227, if you are able to really relate it to human rights, fundamental rights. And so, right to life came in very handy. Right to life is not bare animal existence. It is the ability to breathe easy, have a clean, potable drinking water. It is about quality of life. And that is what the state should ensure. Is what the courts of law say. So you are actually relating whatever that environment as an imperative prescribes, that you shall not pollute the water or contaminate the air, that you shall not actually cause so much of annoyance, harm, alarm, inconvenience. Look at what the courts of law did. They just applied the tort law principle. Sic utere tuaut alienam non ledas. Students of tort law, you are familiar with that principle, the maxim. So use your property as not to cause harm, alarm, annoyance, inconvenience to others. So you are entitled to use whatever resource that you have, whatever property that you own, enjoy it. But in the course of such an enjoyment and use, you shall not so use as to cause any kind of inconvenience to the other. This was actually used at the international level in the trade-smelter arbitration, and this is across borders. From individual to individual, the good neighborly relation that you have to have with your neighbor, writ large, in the trade-smelter arbitration, as you are familiar with, wherein the arbitrator said that if you run an industry, make sure that the fumes that emanate out of the chimney, harmful one at that, shall not really inconvenience the neighborhood. And in case they are affected, if their health, hygiene, well-being and sanitation is affected, then you need to pay compensation. So what you see is the entire body of law concerning the environment essentially, exclusively, as an initial step, is an extension of the tort law principle, is an extension of human rights. And so the intimate relationship between the two cannot be wished away. Protecting the environment is protecting human rights. I said it's a strategy. Strategy for the simple reason that environmental law needed some kind of a prop, a support, which could not stand on its own. So unless and until you relate it to something, economic good or human good, it won't appeal to the policymaker, the lawmaker, the law enforcer and law interpreter. And so the courts of law trailed a new trend. It was a trailblazer of judgments. In fact, the kind of judgments that the highest court of law gave over a period of time, it has become a model for the rest of the world to emulate. All those principles that the courts of law gave, right from 1970s to at least up to 1995-96. Look at this, the public trust doctrine. Public trust doctrine, as was evolved by Justice Kuldip Singh in the MC Mehta versus Union Amelia, the celebrated Kamal Nath case. You are familiar with it? What's that Kamal Nath case? What's that case about? You have just heard. Can anyone help me? What is public trust? I told you that I am in conversation, no lecture. In fact, if I had more time, I would have come all the way up there and then gotten into a conversation with each one of you. I am not telling you anything new. Public trust doctrine you know. Kamalnath case you know. What is this doctrine about? It had no Indian origin at all. This principle was evolved in a case called as the Mono Lake case in the United States, way back in very early 1840s, 50s. Trial court decision. Americans had forgotten about it. But here in the year 1996, from the ash cans of history, this principle is resurrected, dusted, and given an Indian tricolor by this celebrated judge, Kuldeep Singh. How does he refer to this doctrine? He simply puts it this way. When you think of the relationship between the resources, the people, and the government, it is guided by this doctrine of public trust. All resources that are in the public domain, all the environmental resources in the public domain, the government is the public trustee of. What is a trust? Trust in law is something which is very valuable. And that valuable thing is entrusted to someone in whom you have trust or faith. And who is that? The government. And why government? Government for the simple reason that it does not have its own selfish interest. And it is supposed to always act in public interest. And that's why the holder of a public governmental position is referred to as a public office holder, public servant. For the simple reason that they have to act in public interest. All decisions, all actions should invariably be related to anything of a public concern and a public interest, isn't it? So that way, the one who does not have a selfish interest, to whom you are giving this valuable thing as the natural resources, it is his job to keep it up, to maintain, to manage, and improve its quality. Who says that? The Constitution says that. Where is that? Article 48A. Please refer to Article 48A. It is the primary responsibility of the state to protect, maintain, manage, and improve the quality of environment. So here is a public trustee, a trustee who has been given a public duty to perform, to take care like a parent would take care. So in loco parentis, the function of the state agency is to take care of the resources, protect, maintain, and manage them. A trust that is reposed cannot be betrayed. And what did the court say here? You, the public trustee, the highest authority in the state, the environment minister, you have betrayed the trust. I don't have to tell you the facts of the case. You know the facts. A private resort was allowed to violate all these regulations concerning the natural course of a riverine system, protection of the forest wealth, all looted. The direction of the riverine system was changed, and the court said, since this property belonged to you, you took that extraordinary step. It's almost like the fence itself eating the crop. You are given the trust, and you have betrayed the trust. And you, the minister, you have to pay. For the first time it happened. For the first time it happened in independent India. The highest decision maker was imposed with an exemplary penal sanction by the court of law. Public trust doctrine, that's the relationship. So what you see is relationship between individual rights of the public as a whole, public interest, environmental protection, very closely meshed and related to each other. If you think of pollution related laws, Water Act, Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, or Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, or the Environment Protection Act, all put together, they laid down standards. Standards for what? Standards for clean environment. They know very well that when they prescribe the standards, that you cannot come up with a pristine, pure environment, because every human activity will have some kind of an impact on the environment in some form or the other, adverse. But nature and environment have this one uncanny ability of healing by itself, taking on a little bit of a stress and a pressure. And so you need to look to that level, that extent of the pressure and the stress the environment can take and can repair by itself. And accordingly you fix the standards. So the standards under the pollution control regime is not pure standard. It's called as ambient standard. Tolerable, manageable, that which is acceptable. So a little pollution is okay because we have immunity. The nature also has certain immunities, and so thereby you can handle that. So you are thinking of a livable environment. Livable, an environment where you can live, an environment where every human being's abilities can manifest itself and flourish. If it is not human rights, what else is it? Just an introduction. Let me move on to the second theme, sustainable development. Are you students of international law by any chance? Have you gone through the course on international law? All of you? Okay. Then it's very easy. There is something called as right to development. There is a UN declaration that every individual has a right to develop. It's a human right. Every nation has a right to develop. It is a right of every sovereign, independent, equal nation that's there in the globe. So right to development is a well accepted, not an idea, a principle, that each and every country need have to respect the other's right to develop. But what is this sustainable development? This is a little bit of a history. In the year 1972, when the global leaders met in a place called as Stockholm, they met to discuss a crisis, not an ordinary crisis, they called it as environmental crisis. The whole humanity is facing a crisis. That the future of humanity is at stake. That we have destroyed environment at that unprecedented pace. And without this environment, no human being, forget about human beings, no life can survive. As such, what you find is a serious situation where if we do not really step back, examine our priorities for development, rework our priorities, and see that whatever that is left with us is kept intact and is protected, there is no hope or scope for human survival or any life to survive. And there is only one earth and only one environment which can support and sustain life in the entire universe. And it is a small speck in the universe. And if this earth goes, you have no other place to go to. And so we need to save this fragile environment. That was how they met in 1972, and they all came up with a commitment. Yes, we will go back to the drawing board, to our own countries, and make laws to strengthen and evolve environmental legal regime to protect the environment for the survival of humanity. Once again, human rights again. For human beings to survive, you need to make environmental laws. For human beings to survive, sustain and flourish, the environmental prescriptions needed to be strengthened. So that was the commitment they made, and they went back, and right from 72 onwards, we have a host of laws made at the domestic level. So we have international inspiration for making environment related laws at the domestic level. But over a period of time, for about a decade later, because that was the commitment they made, every decade we will come, sit, deliberate, and then take stock of what we have done to the environment, and if anything more needed to be done, we will do something more. But by 1982, they discovered efforts were half-hearted, because you have right to develop. And in our desire and determination to develop, we had forgotten that we are depending so much on the resources, exhausting them, destroying the very basis on which we can develop. And so, the environmental crisis had deepened by 1982. The global leaders started worrying that if we keep on talking about environmental protection and not allow states to develop, developing nations would rebel against us. And similarly, the developing nations felt that if we develop at the same way by aping the developed nations, we would ultimately end up with a destructive development. So they came together and they were looking for a magic formula whereby the whole humanity could really anchor itself to see that while development is allowed to continue, environmental protection is also assured. How do we do that? What kind of a legal formulation, that concoction of development and environmental concern coming together to galvanize each one of us into action to see that environment is protected and development is promoted. They constituted a committee, a high-powered committee, and Brundtland. And this committee came up with a report, Our Common Future. That's the title of the report. That's the history part. But what's the actual part? The actual part that we should be exercised over. In that, they came up with this magic formula, sustainable development. Henceforth, the agenda before the global community is not just environmental protection, not just right to develop, but a combination of the two. We call it as sustainable development. Simple formulation. And what is that simple formulation? That every generation has the right to develop as much as they want, without compromising similar such right of the succeeding generation. Look at the way in which the entire idea comes through, that your right to development is in no way affected, but please see that as a generation you have a right to develop. So is the case with the generation that comes after you. They also have a similar right to develop. There is a temporal dimension to right to develop. The right of the past generation, the right of the current generation, and right of the subsequent generation. You need to combine all this, and the end result is sustainable development. You have to develop, but you have to sustain development. And to sustain development, you have to conserve. Conservation and development, when they go together, there is sustainable development. To tell you the truth, what this Brundtland committee came up with, and what did the international community endorse in the year 1992 in the second environmental summit called as the Earth Summit 2, or the Summit on Environmental Development, is nothing new for us the Indians. Have you heard of a Nobel laureate by name Rabindranath Tagore? He said it more than a century back. The same sustainable development idea, he gives a wonderful image of a chariot. The environment and development are the two wheels of the same chariot. Look at that image of a poet. It explains sustainable development better than any other one by just giving you the vision and an image of a chariot with the two wheels. Two wheels. Wheels actually represent motion, movement. So they have to keep on moving. Conservation on one side, development on the other side, and both of them should be unidirectional. They should move in the same direction. They should move in the same direction at the same pace. Then only there is balance. That is sustainable development for you. A quintessential element of sustainable development principle is to sustainably use resources to ensure intergenerational equity and integrate this idea in all your policies and programs of action of development. Very simple. But it has been said that all great ideas are very simple, very difficult to implement because we are very complicated people. We complicate things. Once you know the value, significance, importance of any particular resource, for what purpose those resources are meant for, and what kind of benefit that you can derive out of that. So there is a little bit of a science behind it. And once you have ascertained that, put it to that kind of use. Don't behave like the one who owned a hen that gave a golden egg every day. There is sustainable development if you allow the hen to give a golden egg every day and be satisfied with one golden egg. That's the quintessence of the idea of sustainable development principle. Now, how do these two marry? Development and conservation. The trick lies in the kind of legal prescriptions that you come up with. As students of environment law, you study EIA law, right? Environment Impact Assessment Law. Environment Impact Assessment Law actually lays down environmental conditionalities for developmental designs and decisions. You want to develop? Go ahead. But take care. Take care that these environmental conditions shall not be violated. Sustainable development. And immediately taking you to the other principle, the principle of precaution. What is precaution? Precaution is to act with caution. Act with caution, yeah. There are 4 A's in it. The first one is to anticipate. You propose a particular developmental activity, anticipate the adverse impacts that this proposed activity would have. Okay? By anticipating, what do I do? Forewarned is forearmed. That I have anticipated that these are the adverse impacts, so I tighten my defenses. Avoid. If the adverse impact is such that it is irreversible, that once the change occurs, there is no point, there is no scope for going back, and the change that occurs is going to put you in a far worse condition than you were, better not take that position. Better not take that developmental option. So you have this option of a particular proposed developmental activity. If it leads to the loss of a particular species or a variety of a plant or animal, with all the technology that we are very familiar with the state-of-the-art technology that we have. Human being has not been able to recreate life in the same way as it used to be. Cloning, yes, we have, but still, you have not been able to clone every life form as yet. So given that fact, that if a particular variety of a species or a plant or an animal is lost, and if it cannot be recovered, and when all these life and life forms are interconnected with each other, the quality of life of one would come down if the other life form is extinct. Then don't get into that activity. Anticipate and avoid. Then, no development. Hold on. There is a third principle here. Alternative. Look for alternatives. Develop, I should. But not this is the route. This is not the route because there is so much of problems in going ahead with that. Is there an alternative route? I want to set up this industry here. Well, it is seismic prone. There will be earthquake here. No point in having this. Why don't we look for an alternative site where the earth will stand firm? The steel plant can come here. Right? Look for that alternative. So, the impact assessment law is designed around this, which comes up with this third component of the precautionary principle, that look for an alternative and go ahead with that. So development is unaffected, the environment is not destroyed, cost and benefit analysis is done, and this alternative would actually provide you this ample opportunity that the benefits far outweigh the costs. Go ahead. But if none of these are possible, harm is inevitable, attack. No choice. You have no choice. The fourth one is attack. If a particular proposed developmental activity, number one, would result in damage control, mitigation, minimization, reduction of whatever adverse impact it would have is the only choice left with you. So in a way, what you see is development you must have, but be more rational. Look before you leap. Think well in advance. The consequences of a particular proposed course of action of yours. And if you find that the leap that I take would not break my limbs, then if I can have safe landing, take the leap. But if you have problem, then have a parachute. Better. So that you will have safe landing. Less friction. The bones are intact. That's all about the principle of precaution and sustainable development. The last component of my inquiry, are you still with me? Those in the last benches, are you following me? If you are not heard me, then forget it. You are not with me or with the rest of the class. Are you able to follow whatever I am trying to convey? Because my time is rationed. Ma'am has told me by 11:30 I should conclude. And if you want to have interactions with me right now, welcome. You can stop me at any stage and pose questions. Or at the end of it, I will start posing questions to you and answer me. The best way is to pose questions, rather than expecting questions from me. I am game for the second one. And so better, follow me, so that at the end of it, when we get into question and answers, you will have more questions to ask and I will have very little to answer. Okay? Are you still with me? Okay? Can we move on? Are you getting bored and tired? You want a little story to be conveyed? Okay, let me tell you a story. Because that's always something that's more appealing. No? You know Sherlock Holmes? Arthur Conan Doyle. Yes. You know Watson. the sidekick of Sherlock Holmes. These two were going. Of course, to unravel the mystery of a whodunit. It was late in the evening. They lost their way. And Holmes told Watson, "Look, Watson, we are lost our way. We will pitch our tent in this open field, rest here tonight, and at daybreak, we will resume our journey. We will find our way back." Friend agreed. They pitched their tent, had their dinner, slept. Around midnight, unless it is an emergency. No problem. We can continue with the story. Around midnight, you are following the story, right? Please follow it carefully. It is related to technology. I will come to that. Around midnight, Watson gets a nudge. Wakes up. He sees Sherlock Holmes standing before him. What happened, Holmes? Holmes tells, "Look up. What do you see?" "I see the open sky." No. Go on. "I see a very clear sky with stars all around. In fact, for the first time, Holmes is asking questions and Watson is answering. And Watson is very happy that he is asking questions and I have the opportunity to speak up. All the while he used to be a chronicler, he used to write whatever Holmes said. But now Holmes is asking questions. So anyway, perhaps he did not get sleep. Let me explain to him, yeah, it's clear sky and it looks as though that there's going to be a bright sunny morning tomorrow, meteorologically speaking. No rains, no cloud, nothing. Okay, go on. Go on. Okay. I turn a little romantic because it's such a wonderful atmosphere. This is the place for the romantics. Okay. Anything else? Well, astrologically speaking, he starts saying something about Leo and Gemini and all that in the stars. Then suddenly, Holmes asks Watson to shut up. Somebody has stolen our tent. Let's go and search. Story over. Lesson starts. The problem with us is that we are all Watsons. And we just don't know what Holmes tried to convey. This precisely was our position. When in the year 1992, when the global community met in a place called as Rio de Janeiro to reflect on one problem that the humanity faced, the loss of biodiversity. Biodiversity loss. But what Watson and Holmes have got to do with that? I'll come to that. What is biodiversity? Variety of life and life forms. What's the problem with loss? The problem is science tells us that certain kinds of plants and animal varieties that we have, they can solve all our problems with regard to hunger. The entire humanity's hunger problem. They can solve all the problems with regard to any kind of ailments that we have. So it is medicine, it is food. There will be no hunger in the world. There will be no ailment in the world because the mysteries of nature are such that life and life form certain kinds. And not all of them are hidden. You have traditional sciences available, Ayurveda for example, which has found answers for many of our ailments. The problem with us is that many of these hidden secrets of nature, practiced and perfected by certain communities of people, are taken out of our country. Looked at. The tent is missing without you realizing it. Who said this? Renowned scientists of India had conveyed this. They had gotten into collaborative research with scientists elsewhere. And after some time, they found that these scientists and those people who were engaged by those industries there, they were able to extract certain wonderful, valuable information from here, used it to come up with a product, and that product was marketed here based upon your traditional wisdom, based upon the very resource that is derived from here for a price. Without you realizing it. You cannot challenge it because no law supported you. You cannot question about their ability to tap the traditional wisdom because there was nothing like an intellectual property with regard to this. There was something called as a biopiracy occurring. Loss of the tent is biopiracy that should. The entire tropical countries suffered from that. And many of the rice varieties that you had here, they could be found in a laboratory in a place called Manila in Philippines, subjected to so many kinds of experiments, and new varieties came from there, and those seeds were sold in the market here, for which you had to pay the price. Your own varieties. And your own varieties were being recycled back to you for a price, and you could not challenge that. So the question was, how do you really arrest this trend of piracy? How do you arrest this trend of loss of bioresources? How do you ensure that somebody is not getting unjustly enriched at your cost? Your resource, your knowledge, somebody is making a profit out of it. And lo and behold, we came up with a new law called as the Convention on Biological Diversity. Now I come to the last part of my submission to you. Biotechnology. Technology and destructive development. In fact, the entire body of biodiversity law is around this. It's about biosafety. Application of science and technology with regard to life and life forms. Are subject to a lot of risks. There is no guarantee. There is no guarantee that something that you are subjected to experimentation. What kind of experimentation? You call it as biotechnology. And more specifically, you refer to it as genetic engineering. You're familiar? I don't have to explain. Genetic engineering. All that you do is you play on the DNA and get a particular kind of a formulation whereby for a particular plant variety you don't have to add a pesticide from outside. It is already injected into it. And so a pest-free plant would sprout. For a fabric, in order to get color, you subject it to dyeing. Several colors that you are going to subject. And this dyeing process is a chemical process. There's so much of contamination of the atmosphere, water body, because the washings of that will get into a water stream and that kind of thing. But how about in the same cotton crop, you have a red cotton, a blue cotton, a green cotton like that, and that's the wonder of science. You will get it through this genetic engineering. Look at the advantage. The wonderful advantage is that you don't have to make an effort in coloring something. The cotton fabric that you get will have such a rainbow of colors that you are looking for, just sheer magic. The magic of science and technological application of scientific knowledge. We call it as genetic engineering. Advancement in science and technology has made this possible. You will have pesticide-free plants. You will have coloring of fabric without the need for chemicals. You can grow crops, high-yielding crops. Till yesterday, on an acre of land, I used to get only about some 10 quintals of rice. Now, 100 quintals is a child's game. All because of genetic engineering. So promotion of science is something that you should always allow, so that it will do good to humanity. When it comes to life and life forms, genetic engineering is all about life. All about changing life, creating mutants, and bringing in mutations, modifications. And what you are going to do is, you are putting evolution on a fast track. You call it as revolution. Revolution in life. Even our traditional farmer is also a scientist. His laboratory is the open field. The only difference is, he will come up with a new variety over a period of time through his own experimental methods, but it takes a long period of time. It is an evolutionary process, a very slow process. But we are putting that on a fast track through this genetic engineering. What you had achieved in 100 years, we are achieving it in 1 year. Okay, then what's the problem? The problem is, you are not too sure about the results. This scientific experimentation is full of risks. Risk is inherent in experimentation. And in this experimentation, it's quite possible that while I'm changing this DNA, it's quite possible that I may lose that variety. While advantages are also possible, promised, but the promises may not be kept because you are not knowing clearly the end result. You are still experimenting. So what do you have to do then? Should we stop this? Yeah, better stop. If you stop it, then there is no development. Are you not violating my right to develop? Are you not going to be an enemy of scientific development? So, to hell with your environment. To hell with your environmental regulations. If you are not going to support and promote science and technology, and if it can do so much of good to the people, a little bit of a risk is okay. No, they are not referring to a little bit of risk. We are referring to very serious risk. It is not just a threat. It is something that is happening, whereby through this experimental process, many a variety, many a species was found lost, not reported. What is only reported is different colors of that cotton. What is reported is higher yield. What is reported is a pest-resistant product. But what is not reported is loss of life and life forms. If some 20 people die in an accident, it gets reported. If 20 varieties of a particular algae is lost, hardly it gets reported, because we don't value that life. And you know for sure that there are some of these microorganisms which are referred to as planktons on the sea, which actually feed all the aquatic life. You remove these planktons, be assured that you won't get a fish catch. And to that extent, you won't have fish to eat. So look at the connection between one life form with the other. And when you do an experimentation with this, be careful that the entire resource is not lost. A little bit of a loss of life is okay, but loss of variety is different. Loss of a species is different. You get a point? what species, variety that human beings are? Any idea? We belong to only one variety. Although we may be 700 crores of people in the world, and not a single human being is like another human being. All of us as human beings belong only to one variety of life. What's it called? Homo sapiens. Like us, we are only one variety. There are millions of varieties of life forms. What I am referring to is loss of a variety, not an individual. Have you heard of genocide? Genocide of a different kind occurs. So in such a case, what you do? Act with caution. Apply the principle of precaution. And the Biodiversity Convention comes up with this principle of precaution. It comes up with a protocol. In the year 2000, a protocol was entered into. Protocol in law. Rules, yeah. Under the law of treaties, a treaty is a global compact. It can be bilateral or multilateral. I am referring to a multilateral. If it actually prescribes the substantive aspect of an obligation to be conformed to by states, which actually gives you the broad principles of governance on a particular issue, agreed to by the states which are subscribed to it. It has various expressions like convention, treaty, and things like that. Now, like at the domestic level, you have a statute and you have rules. The treaties also have what are called as protocols. Certain aspects of those treaties which require amplification, which require a little bit more detail, a little bit more description, a little bit more tools of operation, and that is reflected through what is referred to as a protocol, like rules of implementation at the domestic level. That's enough, because you, as students of international law, you know. So a protocol was signed in the year 2000 by those very member countries which were parties to the Biodiversity Convention, called the Biosafety Protocol. Biosafety Protocol in a place called Cartagena or Cartagena. That's why it's called as Cartagena Protocol of Biosafety. And just to give you a very simple, because I'm running out of time, a very simple example to see how this biosafety protocol would work. I'll give you the example of a case that was decided by the Supreme Court in India. Have you heard of P.T. Brinjal case? That's an example for application of the biosafety protocol. Let me explain it without referring to the case as to how exactly this would operate. One of the principles laid down in this particular protocol is that when you want to subject any plant or a variety or a species for biotechnological processes of genetic engineering, go ahead and do it. But not, there is one condition. Not in the place where it is endemic to. What is endemic? That's the only place where it is found. There are certain species of plants and animals or varieties which are grown in only in certain areas. You may take a seed of that and grow elsewhere, but it will neither have the color, the flavor, the taste, the feel, the texture of that which is grown there. That's why we call something as basmati rice. To a geographical region, it is very endemic to. Nowhere you can grow similar such thing. You can grow basmati elsewhere also. but it will not have the same shape, the same form, the same flavor as basmati rice has. Now, this convention, this protocol makes it very clear that anything that is very unique to a particular place, endemic, unique to a particular place, don't carry out any genetic engineering experiment of that species, of that variety there. Then where can I do that? You take out a variety, you take out a plant from that, or a seed, or a flower, or whatever that you want to experiment on, from that place, take it elsewhere. And through the usual processes of a greenhouse experiment, grow a variety of that. Over that, you carry on an experiment. Biosafety protocol insists that by doing so, the original quality would remain intact, and through experimentation, if that particular thing is lost, doesn't matter, the original safety valve is here, it can continue to grow the same thing, the safety is assured, experimentation can go on without really affecting its intrinsic quality, value, worth and integrity. Get my point? So, here is a very struggle, a big struggle that's going on of matching our desire, our inclination, our wish, our ambition to carry on new experiments, and that should not be curbed. But without curbing that, there is also a word of caution here. Take care. Make sure that what you do will not affect the integrity of this. And for that, we have this legal formulation, the biosafety protocol. Technological advancements, while they do good to us in a very big way, at the same time, the flip side of it need have to be taken note of, and for which you have these legal conditionalities laid out through this particular convention. It's not that every technological advancement is destructive, but you need have to really use your intellect, your ability to see what is good and what is bad, what is risky and what is irreversible, on the basis of which in a graduated way or a graded way, you need have to come up with your responses, and environmental legal regulations come up with different levels and layers of conditions, terms, to really see that adverse impacts are minimized, development is promoted, technological advancement is allowed, conservation assured. What we have is a very heady mix. A heady mix of a situation where you promote development, you sustain development, you conserve. What you do is you promote human rights, you conserve. The trick that lies with regard to the environmental legal prescriptions that we have, nationally or internationally, is to marry the two, is to draw that line, how far you can go, how far it is sustainable, how far it becomes unsustainable. What kind of precaution that you must exercise, and what would actually help and improve the quality of life. There is an element of equity, the third and the final principle that I bring it before you is there's an element of equity. It's called as environmental equity. It has two dimensions to it. Environmental equity is doing equity to humans at one level and doing equity to nature itself. You are balancing the two. And in doing so, what you are going to ensure is that conservation is taken care of, development is also promoted. The trick lies in considering every human being as part of nature and not apart from nature. Environmental law is a constant endeavor in making a human being to remain a part of nature. And the three inquiries that ma'am has given to me is essentially helped me to elaborate on that in the time that has been made available. Any questions?